Okay, so this video is going to be about solving linear equations using the form y equals mx plus b with m being greater than 0, or also where m is less than 0. So the first one is going to be, let's see. So the first one says 2x plus 1 equals 3. So the way that you solve this one is you always want to make sure, and if it helps, you can draw a line. You always want to make sure to do the opposite of what's over here. So if it's plus 1, you subtract 1 from each side and make sure you do both sides whatever you do to the left side, you do to the right. So then you're going to say 2x equals 2, and then you go ahead and divide by 2 on each side, giving you x equals 1. For this next one, we have 3x plus 4 equals 8. So again, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and subtract 4 on each side, giving you 3x equals 4, and then you want to go ahead and divide by 3 on each side, giving you x equals 4/3. And then for this next one, again, you want to do it the opposite. So it's adding 10, so you subtract 10 on each side. And whatever you do to the left, you do to the right. That's why I see on each side. And so then you go ahead and say 5x equals 5. You divide by 5 on each side to get x equals 1. And this video is going to be focusing on solving linear equations with in all types of forms. And I'm sorry, I forgot to do this part. So this part is solving given m equals 1, where your slope is 1. So an m is the slope. So for these, what you would want to do is you just add 2 on each side, giving you x equals 7. For this one, you would do plus 5 on each side, giving you x equals 8. And for this one, you would do add 6 on each side, giving you x equals 4. For this next part, there's also distributive property. So you would have something like 3 times the quantity x minus 3 equals 16, for example. So for this part, whenever you have a parentheses right here formed like this, what you would want to do is you would want to do distributive property. Distributive property means that you distribute your 3 to each of these. So you have 3x minus 9 equals 16, because you would say 3 times x minus 3 times 3, which equals basically this. So then you would say plus 9 on each side, giving you 25 equals 3x, and then you divide by 3, giving you x equals 25 thirds. And then for the next one, I'm going to make it a little bit more complicated. So we have 3 times quantity x minus 4 equals 5 times x minus 6. So again, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and distribute over here. So you have 3 times x minus 3 times 4 equals 5 times x minus 5 times 6, which is 3x minus 12 equals 5x minus 30. And so this is another thing where you have, actually no, I'm gonna change I'll change the problem, because we haven't gotten to those yet. So we have 3 times x minus 2 equals 9. So we would say 3 times x minus 6, or minus 3 times 2 equals 9. So you would say 3x minus 6 equals 9, plus 6 on each side, giving you 3x equals 15. And then once you divide by 3 on each side, you would say x equals 5. For there's another type that I want to introduce. That's called, so it's solving with variables on both sides. So one example is 3x minus 2 equals 2x plus 5, for example. So what you would do first is, number 1, bring x to one side by addition or subtraction. So we would say, for this one, we would say minus 2x. And then you have this crosses out, this cancels out, and then you have, you have x minus 2 equals 5. And so number 2, you would say add 2 on each side. So then you would say plus 2 on each side, giving you x equals 7. So, and if you want to check your solution, you would say 3 times 7 times 7 minus 2 equals 2 times 5. I'm sorry, I need to put plus 5. So you would say, or 2 times 7, my bad. 2 times 7. So you would say 21 minus 2, does that equal 14 plus 5? 19 equals 19, and that's how you would verify that this is the right solution. Another example can be like 3x minus 2 equals negative 4x plus 5. So you would say plus 4x on each side, so you always have to deal with what's in here first. And then, you know, like I would never do, I mean, you can. Actually, no, you can't. You can't. So, like, for example, I can't say this first. I can't do this first because that would cancel out the 3x. And then, or can I? Let me check. Actually, you can. I mean, you can do it either way. But you just have to make sure that you always figure out a way to solve for x. So you always have, you always make sure that you get your x equals something as your result. But basically, my way of doing this is by getting rid of the x on one side, and then saying negative 2 equals negative 7x plus 5, and then I would then say minus 5 on each side. So you get negative 7 equals 7x, and then you would go ahead and simplify it that way. And you would say x equals negative 1, or negative 1 equals x. Whichever way, it doesn't matter. So, check. So the next one I wanted to go through is, now that we've covered, equations with variables on both sides, equations with variables on one side, and distributive property, let's do one that involves Let's first do one that involves distributive property, and then just adding or subtracting on one side. So for example, this one, you would say -2 on each side first, and then you would say 3. You can still put it like this, and then you would cross this part out, and you would say 3 times the quantity x minus 1 equals 1, and then you would say 3x minus 3 equals 1, and then you would go ahead and add 3 on each side, so you get 3x equals 4. And then you would get x equals 4/3. For the second part, so the last thing I wanted to cover in this video is solving an equation using basically all the methods that a linear equation using all methods. So you would say let's see, so you would say for example 3 times the quantity, you would say 3 times the quantity x minus 2 plus 5 times the quantity x minus 6 minus 2 equals 3, or -3 times the quantity x minus 6 plus 2 times the quantity x minus 3. So then you would say, you would do the distributive property on every side. So then you would say 3x minus 6 plus 5x minus 30 minus 2 equals -3x plus 18 plus 2x minus 6. And then you combine your like terms. So we have a 3x over here, a 5x over here, a -6 over here, a -30 over here, a -2 over here, and then we have a -3x over here, a 2x over here, and then we have an 18 over here and a -6 over here. So then you would say 3x plus 5x minus 6 minus 30 minus 2 equals -3x plus 2x plus 18 minus 6. So you say 8x minus 38 equals -x let's see, it would be negative x. This is an 18. Okay, sorry, I was trying to reset. So, plus 18 minus 6. So you would say negative x plus 12. So then finally, what you would do is you would go ahead and add x on each side. And you would cross this out and bring the 12 down. And then you would say 9x minus 38 equals 12. And then you would add 38 on each side, giving you 9x equals 50. And then you would go ahead and divide by 9 on each side to get x equals 50 over 9. Yeah, x equals 50 over 9. And you can always check your solution. But I think that's basically all I wanted to cover is linear equations on each side. Remember that, well, actually, never mind, that'll be covered in inequalities, because I know that when you subtract, so when you have like negative 5x is greater than 5, and you divide, it would be x less than negative 1, but we'll cover that later. But I hope this helps with solving linear equations and just knowing the basic form of it. And also, a linear equation is of the form, it can be ax plus b such that a does not equal 0. Or of the form mx plus b such that m does not equal 0. It can be either way. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that it helps you with solving linear equations. Thank you for watching. Bye. And please subscribe for more videos on algebra.